I had always thought that being a teacher would be a rewarding experience. I envisioned guiding young minds, helping them grow and learn, but nothing could prepare me for the chilling events that unfolded in my classroom. It was a rainy Tuesday morning when I arrived at Maple Grove Elementary, ready to begin my first year as a third-grade teacher. The school was old, its brick walls lined with ivy, giving it a quaint charm. But as I walked through the halls, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air felt heavy, almost as if the building itself was holding its breath. My classroom was small, decorated with bright posters and the colorful artwork of previous students. I arranged the desks in neat rows, creating an inviting atmosphere. As the students filed in, I greeted them with a smile, eager to get to know each one. They were a lively bunch, filled with energy and curiosity. Among them was a girl named Emily. She was quiet, sitting in the back of the room with her head down, long dark hair obscuring her face. I noticed she barely interacted with the other students. During lunch, I approached her and asked, "Hey Emily, would you like to join us?" She looked up at me with wide, frightened eyes and shook her head. I felt a twinge of concern. I couldn't understand why a child would be so withdrawn. I made a mental note to keep an eye on her, hoping to find a way to connect with her. As the week passed, I noticed strange occurrences in the classroom. Occasionally, I would find Emily staring out the window, her expression distant. I tried to engage her in conversations, but she often fell silent, her eyes lost in thought. Other students would whisper among themselves, and I overheard them say things like, "She's weird," or "Don't talk to her." It broke my heart to see Emily isolated. One afternoon, I decided to speak with her after class. "Emily, is everything okay?" I asked gently. She looked up, her eyes filled with fear and confusion. I don't know," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you feeling sad? You can talk to me," I encouraged. She hesitated, her fingers twisting in her lap, but finally, she nodded slightly. I see things," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Things that other people don't see." I felt a chill run down my spine but maintained a calm demeanor. "What kind of things?" I asked, curious yet concerned. "Sometimes I see a boy standing in the corner of the room," she said, glancing nervously around the classroom. "He looks sad, and he wants to play." I furrowed my brow, unsure of how to respond. "Emily, I want you to know that you're safe here. If you ever feel scared or confused, you can come to me," I said, hoping to comfort her. As the days went on, I began to notice a pattern. Emily would often zone out, staring into space, her gaze fixed on something I couldn't see. I wanted to believe it was just her imagination, a product of a lonely child's mind, but the other students started to notice too. They whispered behind her back, and I could see the mockery in their eyes. One day, I was reviewing math problems when I heard soft sobbing from the back of the room. I turned to find Emily curled up at her desk, tears streaming down her cheeks. My heart sank. I rushed over, kneeling beside her. "Emily, what's wrong?" I asked, concern flooding my voice. "I can't do it. I can't see him anymore," she cried, her words tumbling out in a rush. "He gets mad when I don't play with him, and I don't want to, but he keeps coming back." I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. "Who is he, Emily? Can you tell me more?" I pressed gently, hoping to understand what she was experiencing. "The boy in the corner. He says he's forgotten, and he wants me to remember him, but I can't. I can't remember." Her voice broke, and she buried her face in her arms, trembling. I held her shoulders gently, trying to comfort her. "You're okay, Emily. You're not alone. We'll figure this out together," I promised, though I felt a sense of dread settling in my stomach. That evening, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I did some research, hoping to find answers about childhood imagination and emotional distress. The more I read, the more I realized that children often experience things differently than adults. but the idea of Emily seeing a ghost or a spirit lingered in my mind. The next day, I approached Emily with a plan. What if we draw what you see? Maybe it can help you talk about it, I suggested. She looked up, her eyes widening in surprise. Okay, she replied hesitantly. We spent the afternoon drawing. Emily sketched a small boy with sad eyes, standing alone in a dark corner. The resemblance to her descriptions was uncanny. As she finished, I felt a sense of responsibility to help her. Emily, this boy, do you think he wants something from you? I asked carefully. She nodded slowly. He wants me to remember him, but I don't know how, she whispered. That night, I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with thoughts of Emily and the boy she described. I felt compelled to learn more about the school's history. The following day, I went to the local library. I spent hours combing through old records and newspaper articles, searching for anything that could explain Emily's visions. Then I stumbled across an article from decades ago. A boy named Lucas had gone missing from Maple Grove Elementary. He had last been seen playing near the old playground, but the search had turned up nothing. It was as if he had vanished without a trace. My heart raced as I read on, realizing the timeline of his disappearance matched the year the school was built. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. Could it be possible that Emily was seeing the spirit of this lost child? The thought sent chills down my spine, but I needed to know for sure. I decided to ask Emily more about the boy she had been seeing. The next day, I sat down with her again. Emily, do you remember anything else about the boy? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He said his name was Lucas, she replied, her eyes wide with fear. He's been waiting for someone to play with him. He's lonely. My heart sank. I had uncovered a tragic truth. Emily, I found something about a boy named Lucas who went missing a long time ago. I think he may be the boy you see, I said gently. Her face paled, and she clutched her drawings tightly. I didn't mean to make him angry. I just wanted him to go away. Emily, you didn't do anything wrong. He might just want to be remembered. We can help him find peace, I said, trying to instill hope. That evening, I prepared a small ceremony in the park behind the school. I thought it might help both Emily and Lucas find closure. I invited a few of my colleagues to join us, wanting to create a supportive environment for Emily. As the sunset cast an orange glow over the trees, we gathered in a circle. I spoke softly about Lucas, sharing his story, the sadness of his disappearance, and the importance of remembering those who were lost. Emily stood beside me, clutching her drawings. Lucas, if you can hear us, we remember you. You are not forgotten, I said, my voice filled with sincerity. Emily looked up, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I didn't remember you sooner. I'll always remember you now, she whispered, her voice trembling. The moment felt heavy, filled with emotion. As we released paper lanterns into the sky, I felt a sense of release in the air, as if something was finally being set free. Time turned into weeks, and Emily began to change. The fear that had once consumed her slowly faded, and she became more engaged in class. She still drew, but now her artwork was filled with bright colors and happy images. I could see the weight lifting from her shoulders. One day after school, she approached me, her expression bright. I think Lucas is okay now, she said with a smile. I don't see him anymore. A wave of relief washed over me. That's wonderful, Emily. I'm so proud of you, I said, feeling a warmth in my heart. But even as I rejoiced, a part of me remained vigilant. I had learned that some things lingered longer than expected. As the school year continued, I kept a close watch on Emily, determined to protect her. One afternoon during recess, I noticed a group of students gathered around the swing, whispering and pointing. My stomach dropped. I rushed over, my heart racing. What's going on? I asked, trying to gauge the situation. There's a new kid, one of the girls exclaimed. He says he's been here for a long time. Where? I asked, scanning the playground. Here, she pointed, and I turned to see a boy standing by the trees, his eyes wide and curious. My heart raced. He looked almost identical to the drawings Emily had made of Lucas. As I approached, the boy's expression shifted from curiosity to fear. I felt a strange energy in the air, as if time had stopped. "Who are you?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I'm Lucas," he replied softly, his voice barely a whisper. I felt a shiver run down my spine. "You can't be here," I said, trying to understand what was happening. "But I was here first," he said, a hint of sadness in his voice. I looked back at Emily, who stood frozen, her eyes wide with fear. "Emily, it's okay, you're safe. You can talk to him," I encouraged. But deep down, I felt a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. The boy turned to Emily, his expression pleading. "You remember me, don't you? You said you would." "Emily," I said softly, trying to keep her calm. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," she cried, backing away, her hands trembling. I stepped in front of her protectively. "You don't have to remember if you don't want to. It's okay," I reassured her. But the boy's eyes were filled with desperation. "Please don't forget me again. I just want to play," he pleaded, his voice breaking. The tension in the air thickened. I could see the other students watching, their curiosity mixed with fear. This was no longer just a conversation between a child and a spirit. It felt like a battle for Emily's attention, a struggle between memory and the need for closure. "Lucas, we remember you," I said, hoping to reach him, "but you need to let Emily go. She has her own life now." The boy's face fell, and I could see the sadness in his eyes. "But I don't want to be alone anymore," he whispered, tears spilling down his cheeks. The sight of him was heart-wrenching, and I felt a surge of compassion. "You don't have to be alone," I said gently. "You can find peace. It's not too late." Emily watched silently, her face pale, but I could see the conflict in her eyes. "I remember you," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I remember how sad you were." At that moment, something shifted in the air. The boy's expression softened, and he took a step back. "Thank you," he whispered. "That's all I wanted." As he began to fade, I felt a weight lift, as if the atmosphere had shifted, finally letting go of the sadness that had lingered for so long. When the air cleared, the other students broke the silence with nervous laughter. "What just happened?" one of them asked, bewildered. I turned to Emily, who looked shaken but relieved. "It's over, isn't it?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did so well." In the following days, the school returned to normal. Emily continued to thrive, and the strange occurrences faded into distant memories. As summer approached, I reflected on the events that had transpired and how they had transformed both Emily and me. That rainy Tuesday morning seemed so far away. I had entered Maple Grove Elementary as a teacher, but I left with a deeper understanding of the complexities of childhood, memory, and the importance of compassion. Emily had taught me that sometimes the most profound connections come from listening and understanding, even in the face of fear. As I watched Emily and her classmates play joyfully in the sunshine, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The forgotten child had been remembered, and in turn, he had freed another soul.